Hello friends, hope everybody is doing well today. Made a short video yesterday, on why Christians need logic and critical thinking. Today I want to do a video on why the church needs philosophers. Now I get a lot of pushback from skeptics and people in the church as well as to why are we embracing things like logic, things like logic, philosophy, arguments, evidence. These are things that go against the Christian faith. And I even hear Christians say this. So I will hear Christians say things like, well, if you could give an argument for the existence of God, then you wouldn't need faith, right? Part of studying philosophy is being able to understand certain things that are baked into their statements or assertions or arguments, right? So when someone says you don't need to give arguments for the existence of God because that would go against having faith, what's the hidden assumption in that? This hidden assumption is faith is some blind leap in the dark that is without evidence. Of course, that's not what faith is. That's not biblically what faith is. And that's not how Christian thinkers from history have ever understood faith. So, the word faith in the Greek is pistis, and it means to have a trust or a confidence, not a blind leap in the dark. So, let's look at some of these points here that I kind of jotted down as to why the church needs philosophers. Some of this comes off of an article that was on the Gospel Coalition, written by a friend of mine, and then I've added a few things to it as well. So, first thing is clear thinking. That is the ability to analyze and refute objections. 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells believers, be ready always to give an everyone. I'm sorry, that's actually wrong. That's 1 Peter 3:15. 2 Corinthians 10:5 is we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of Christ. And so what we do as Christians is not demolish people. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not Christians who have done that. And, if I'm being honest, there's times that, when I engage with skeptics that I, have maybe been a little less than charitable. And I don't want to be like that, right? I want to be charitable. I want to be great. And I want to be able to also analyze people's objections, right? So when I grew up, I would have a lot of questions. My grandfather was, my biggest role model. I was closer to him than my father in a lot of ways, right? He was an atheist. He did not believe God existed. He loved the sciences, and, he loved to think. And so he would have a lot of objections. He loved to debate. That was the other thing he loved, I see a lot of myself, in my grandfather, looking back now. And so he would bring up good objections and good questions. And I would have these questions, if science explains everything, what do we need God for? Like, what does he do? Isn't the Bible just kind of translated like the game of telephone where this person was told something and that person was told something, but there's no real, good way to know that it was preserved accurately. Those were objections, and I didn't know how to respond to those. I didn't know how to answer those particular objections. And so, philosophy helps us to think clearly. Okay, what is it that is being stated? Are the premises, are they logically related? Do the premises follow? Does the conclusion follow from the premises, right? These are all things that help philosophers, or tools that philosophers use in order to analyze arguments. So the ability to analyze arguments and refute objections, and not just go off of our feelings. One that is often given today is that Christians are unloving because of things like abortion. I've been accused of being unloving and angry and etc. numerous times because I'm a man who speaks out against abortion, because I think abortion unjustly takes the life of innocent human beings. And there are people that don't like me for that, okay, and that's fine. So they would say, well, you're being unloving in this. I think to love people is to will their best. If I believe that the gospel, for example, is true, if I believe that Jesus really exists, if I believe that the Bible's true, that there really is a heaven and hell, if I love, for example, my Muslim neighbor, this is another thing that Christians are, often accused of, is being hateful because they're, telling people that they're wrong, for example. If I believe that the Bible is true, if I believe those things that Jesus says, well, then it would be very unloving of me not to go and share the gospel. If I believe that abortion is taking the life of an innocent human being, it would be wrong for me not to speak up on those issues, right? And so thinking through objections, analyzing arguments, and being willing to speak when these issues come up, I think is very, very important. So how do we analyze arguments? Again, think of the philosopher as maybe like a carpenter, and you have the tool belt, and you have your different tools. And so being able to analyze arguments, are the premises true? Are the premises logically related? Does the conclusion follow from the premises? What kind of argument is it? Is it a deductive argument? Is it an inductive argument? These kind of things, really do matter. Is it formally correct? Is it informally correct? Are there informal fallacies that are being committed there? So, for example, you may hear pro-choice people oftentimes, well, you're a man, therefore you don't get an opinion. I just dealt with this, earlier today. I had a comment on this. Well, it's really just it's almost an circumstantial ad hominem attack, because it's saying because I have a man, because I am a man, therefore my opinion is wrong, or therefore I don't have an opinion. It just doesn't follow, and it doesn't follow because arguments don't have gender. If I say premise one, it is always wrong to intentionally take the life of an innocent human being. Premise 2, abortion intentionally takes the life of an innocent human being. Conclusion, therefore, abortion is morally wrong. It doesn't matter if a black person said it, a white person said it, an alien said it, a male said it, a female said it. The issue is not where the argument comes from, right? That's a genetic fallacy. The issue is whether or not are those premises true? Can you defeat it? Can you demonstrate that the argument is false? That's what needs to be dealt with, not who said it. Because that is just completely unrelated to the premises. Think of the premises as the reasons somebody is giving something, right? So if I'm saying, look, I think abortion is wrong because premise 1, it's always, it's wrong to intentionally take the life of an innocent human being. Okay? You need to demonstrate why that premise is not correct. And if you agree with it, then again, premise 2. Abortion intentionally takes the life of an innocent human being. Now, one may look at premise 2 and say, okay, well, I don't believe that the unborn are human beings, or something to that effect. But my point is, you can't just reject it because of where the argument came from. It's just a genetic fallacy. All right, so that's part 1 of why the church needs philosophers. That point 1 was clear thinking, the ability to analyze objections.